it is important that you exactly know the size of your needle. So you need this. This is called the knitting gauge or the knitting needle gauge in metric, because we're now into metric. So for example, this particular needle, it says here the different sizes in the holes. Okay, so here, this is a 7 mm needle. So if you put it into size 7, it will go through. If you put it in 6.5, it will not go through. So here, it is a 7 mm needle. So it's very important that you know, sometimes kasi nga, wala na yung label ng ating needle, o kaya nabura na yung ating, and sometimes it's very hard to read the size of the needle that is etched on the either on the wood or on the plastic. So it's important for you to have this, just for you to know exactly what size of needle you're using. Another important tool are these tapestry needles. Tapestry needles that are big, so that the thick yarn you can also use for any kind of yarn, lalo na this one. Because sometimes when you finish your work, you have to hide the ends of your yung thread na nakalawet. So you have to hide them. And you use the tapestry needle. We need markers also. I don't have a sample here of the round markers, but these markers are helpful in determining, like for sometimes you have to count every 10 stitches, you put a marker. So this is one kind. Another thing is the round thing, just the round marker. What else? Of course, scissors. Parang any needle craft, you will need sharp scissors. And this is a tape measure that with a spring, so you can pull. And these pins, you will need them when you block your work. Later on, I don't know if you will have time to take up the blocking, but maybe some other vlogs I can show you how to, maybe in one of the vlogs I can show you how to, what you call this, block. You have to block your work so that it will become in its very nice form. Okay, so what else? So maybe with that we can move on. Oh, we have this. This is a row marker. So if you put this onto your needle, each row, when you finish one row, you can turn it. That means you go to the next row. So let's say you're on the second row. After the second row, you turn it, and then it will show 3. So you're going to do now the third row. Sometimes, up to you. Minsan, chine-check ko na lang kung nasaang row na ako on my pattern. There is a very important thing that I would like to share with you. I have this catalog. I have this old catalog, and it shows you the different sizes of the needles and also the size of the crochet hooks. But today since we're going to do the knitting, I'll show you. The knitting needles, especially from the US, they have these two sizes, the US size and the size in millimeter, in mm. So for example, you have 11, US size 11. It doesn't mean that you are using an 11 mm needle. You are using an 8 mm needle. So that's very important. Don't confuse the US size with the millimeter size. Kasi pag minsan nakalagay lang nila US size, sometimes they don't even say it's US size. So you will think that, like if you see 11, you will think that that is an 11 mm needle. No, it is an 8 mm. So your 7 US size is actually a 4.5 mm needle. This is very important. Otherwise, baka masira ang lalabas ang inyong project. Oh, sometimes it can turn out maybe mas maganda, baka nagamit mo mas malaking needle. It became very loose and comes lazy. So depende. But still, you have to know this, that there are two sizes that they indicate on some of the projects. And a pattern looks like this. Let's look at one of the patterns here. Any of the patterns would have like a gauge, or like this is a shawl. And at the start of each pattern, here, or like this project, at the start of each pattern, they show you the yarn that they will use, the size of the needle, and then the things that you will need, like the stitch markers and things like that. It is shown here. And then you will see this thing, gauge. This gauge is very important when you do some, maybe a clothing or a top, a blouse, that you will need this gauge. What does it do? When you do a gauge, they will ask you to do, like maybe say, halimbawa, sinabi nila 16 inches of your 16 stitches will come out to be 4 inches. So that means you will have to make a gauge. A gauge is, you will make usually a stockinette stitch. You will make it, siguro kung 16 stitches, let's make mga 25 stitches, you cast on 25. And then yung, I will show you later how to do the gauge. But this is important that you do it. With scarves, you can do away with gauging. Sometimes sinasabi nila na gauge is not important. So, there, and then may mga abbreviations na naman, like sa cross-stitch, merong mga abbreviations. Maraming dapat pang malaman sa ano. That's why when I give my lessons for my students, I don't expect them to know everything in one lesson. That's why I as a service to my customers, that's what I do. They can come to the shop because after a few stitches, maybe nagkamali sila, how do you correct this? Or maybe they encounter a stitch that they don't know how to do, they would come and let me demonstrate how to do it. So maybe that's what we'll do also here. And as I said before, this vlog is not more on tutorials because there are a lot of tutorials in YouTube. So you can just check on them and follow them slowly. It's up to you to choose. So much for the materials. In knitting, there are two major ways to do knitting. There are two methods, the English method and the Continental method. I'll show you the difference between the English method and the Continental method. The English method, you hold your yarn with your right hand. The Continental method, you hold your yarn with the left hand. So if you are a crocheter, if you crochet, it is quite easy for you to do the Continental because you hold your thread just like you're holding your thread when you crochet, assuming that you are right-handed. Because when you're right-handed, you hold the hook with the right hand and then the thread on the left. So that's what you do also when you do the Continental method. So I will demonstrate that to you. But in the meantime, we can start with the first thing that you do when you do knitting. You cast on stitches. Casting on. So we'll do casting on. Before you cast on, you need to do a slip knot. There is a casting on that you start from the end. But there is another casting on that you start estimated length of extra thread.